Welcome to the Kitchen Safety Training and Tutorial Hospitality series. This video will focus on basic principles and proper knife handling concerning safety in the workplace. So before you even pick up that knife and get to cooking, here are the basic principles and procedures for kitchen knife safety. The first step entails preparation. Making sure you are properly ready and that you have your cutting board and knife properly ready is the first important step to ensuring kitchen safety when handling knives. So let's start with number 1. Prepare yourself. Prepare yourself from top to bottom. This means your hair should be pulled back and tied neatly to keep it away from your face when preparing the food, and to prevent it from falling into the food. Next, your hands. They should be thoroughly washed with soap and water. Then put on appropriate sized gloves and make sure you're not wearing any jewelry. Jewelry can make it difficult to work with food. Next, make sure you're wearing an apron and closed-toed shoes to keep your toes and your clothes safe from spills and any potential mishaps. With that, you are now properly ready from head to toe. Take a look at this picture and see how these workers look ready. Let's move on to number 2. Prepare the cutting board. Make sure to have a damp towel or cloth you can put under the cutting board to hold it in place when you are cutting. Also, make sure all your materials are clean. Check that your cutting board and knife are dry and don't have any residue. Next, number 3. Your knife. It has to be the right size and shape, sharp and clean. It is harder to make accurate, safe, and clean cuts when the knife is dull. It will save you time, effort, and make your cuts look a lot cleaner if your knife is the right size, shape, and sharpness. So choosing a knife. Choose a knife that is proportional to the food you are going to cut. Use a small knife for smaller foods. And a small knife isn't easy to use for a large piece of meat, for example. With that, a knife should be firm when cutting harder foods like potatoes, but might need to be more flexible when cutting something more slippery, like fish scales off a fish. Thirdly, consider the blade edge. A serrated knife's jagged blade, for example, would be necessary when cutting through some foods that have a tender center. Next, it is helpful to know how to sharpen a blade because, as noted, a dull blade may cause an injury and take a lot more effort and time to get the work done. So, make sure the blade is sharp. The standard for sharpness or angle of the blade should be 15 to 20 degrees. The safest way to sharpen a knife is by using a steel and pointing it down on the table, making it perpendicular to the tabletop. Next, to get that angle to 15 to 20 degrees, you start the knife at 90 degrees from the steel, perpendicular to it. Split the 90 degrees in half with your knife to make it 45 degrees. Then, again, split that 45-degree angle to make it about 20 to 22 degrees, as you see in this diagram. Now that you have the knife at the 15 to 20 degree angle, start with the knife's end of the blade near the handle. Slide it down in the same motion as you see this arrow going in this diagram, down the steel. The knife also ends at the tip of the steel. Take a closer look at this diagram and see how it illustrates this motion. Also, take note that a knife does not need much pressure. Just a 15 to 20 degree angle and 5 to 8 motions of sharpening the blade down the steel is all you need to make it sharp. To help give you more visual, here's a clip from a specialist, a chef, showing how she sharpens her knife with this steel. Next, how to hold and cut. Now that you know how to sharpen a knife, you must know how to properly hold and cut with the knife. This is the pinch grip. It is the safest and correct way to hold the knife. It is called pinch because your index finger and thumb pinch the blade at each side to hold it steady. That's one finger at each side of the blade, as seen here. Now let's talk about the other hand. The other hand is a claw. You should make it so that your fingers are tucked under and behind your knuckles. This way, your knuckles will protect your fingers from the blade and not get cut. As you see here, this claw keeps the fingers away from the blade, only touching the knuckles. The claw should be with your recessive or weaker hand, which will hold the food in place, while your stronger hand holds the knife steady and makes the cut. The cutting motion. With the dominant hand gripping the knife and having a pinch grip as you see in this picture, then start the cut with the tip of your knife. Cut all the way down by bringing the knife down so it is fully perpendicular to the cutting board, as seen in these pictures. Repeat this motion back at the tip of the knife, creating something like a rocking motion. Take another look at these pictures, shown here, and notice how the knife comes down on the tomato. Also, notice the recessive, weaker hand holding the tomato. It's shaped like a claw with its knuckles protecting the fingers from the knife. In any case, whether sharpening, cutting, or peeling, make sure to always move the knife in a direction away from you. Never bring the knife towards you. Rather, cut it in a way where the knife is moving away from your body. Like what was mentioned when sharpening, moving the knife away from you will keep your hand and body safe from any accidental cuts or injuries. Walking and carrying a knife. If you need to move with your knife to a different location in the kitchen, hold the knife at your side and have it pointing down. Vocalize that you are holding a knife by saying "knife" repeatedly while you are walking and holding the knife so others are aware you have something sharp with you. Lastly, cleaning up and putting knives away. It's a good rule of thumb to wash your knives right away. This prevents contamination. Also, washing it separately with your hands rather than a dishwasher can keep a knife from getting dull. Do not cut something else without you washing it, and only use a knife for what it's designed for, cutting food. If you cannot wash it immediately, place your knives in a labeled separate container. Separating knives from other items in the sink can potentially save you or a coworker from accidentally cutting or poking himself from other items in the sink with a knife in it. Lastly, dry them from any water residue and hang them as seen in this picture, so that one can safely pick another knife for using again. This can all be seen in the provided links and videos. Please take time to watch this short video, a 3-minute clip which gives you the visuals and summarizes all the basic kitchen safety rules that we've just discussed. This video is another tutorial of chefs demonstrating to you how they apply and practice these principles in a professional setting. I highly recommend you watch it for further guidance in your training. Lastly, other helpful sources. Here are 2 videos. The first is the same link showed earlier in the PowerPoint on the sharpening technique, while the other focuses on cutting and holding a knife. These resources together summarize important points made in this presentation and give you a helpful visual to better understand knife kitchen safety.